Okay, I won't be too long here in this intro. BFH, Business from Heaven, another video here. I have a string of content that I want to post. I have like probably about 4 to 5 more videos that I've recorded in like the kind of past few weeks of just really being ass kicked by health anxiety. I'm just trying now to get those out because I'm like at a 7 now when I was like a 1 to 2 previously, so maybe a 5 more than a 7. But I feel stable enough to edit these, get them out there. And for the most part, it's not gonna be a lot of editing. I will warn you, this video and probably ones that come after will be profanity laden. There will be not the best editing. I'm trying to just get them out more so than trying to like professionally edit them. A lot are just audio recordings, so I'm going to apply video to them, such as this one that will just be like shit I found on the internet. I'm gonna try to link this video I found in the comment section. Just like it's cats, just peaceful stuff like that. So really the main idea here is I want to put out health anxiety content for me, but also for like you. Just relatable stuff. Like I don't want to trigger anybody. If I was doing these videos now, I would try to avoid like listing certain diseases. But just know like for some of these previous ones where I was feeling some of these are like very early in this journey, so I didn't really think about health anxiety or like people being triggered by certain titles because I myself have been triggered by them now. So it's stuff that I probably would have retroactively taken care of, but at this point, like to edit out some of like how often I mentioned just diseases offhandedly would take an hour to do so. So just keep in mind that this video and many others may mention certain obviously very serious diseases with like kind of just like mentioning them, but know that for the most part I don't intend on triggering anybody, and I don't go into symptoms that can be a result of this various disease. I just kind of go about what I am experiencing. So about 2 minutes here, so yeah, I hope you enjoy. If you'd like this style, like just random video plus audio, let me know if you want something more like this where I'm actually talking. I do have some of those coming too, so just let me know what you like, I guess. And this one should post sooner rather than later, I would think. But yeah, I feel like shit right now, so I'm gonna try to meditate, and maybe that'll do something, or maybe it won't. Maybe I'll just avoid the ER and just sleep in my bed like a fucking pained old man instead of somebody trying to actually rest. So let me stagger into my bed for the one time. Hope you guys enjoyed the rest of this video though. Watching Fury Usyk 2. Yeah, I don't know. There's one more thing I wanted to mention. I'm on round 11, by the way, and I'm guessing this is where it kind of changed his hands because I was kind of shocked how Usyk won this. But yeah, round 11, he's just fucking murdering Fury. Apple Watch. That's one thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if I did a dedicated section towards that so far, but so the Apple Watch. One thing to keep in mind with that, man. I don't think I've given it enough credits on how that could have really messed up my my health anxiety. Like messed with like it. Excuse me. Buying the Apple Watch. I think I did it actually in the first video. But buying the Apple Watch was a reaction to health anxiety. But it's in the name of using the word exacerbation once again. I don't think it's helped all the time. Most times, maybe at all. I'm thankful to have in the sense that, like, you know, like I remember once, like during COVID, the first time I contracted it, it was a thing where like I could tell that my literal body was heating up, and I was just like not getting a full breath, which I probably could tell that, you know, without having a watch. But it was a thing where like, you know, my normal resting heart rate in 2020 was, checking the watch earlier, I think it was 53 BPM. And it was a thing where like, I think it was like 87, 88 during that time. Like, it was
it was like just like literally doing nothing, just sit on the couch doing nothing. When I had COVID, it was like 87, 88, 89, which, your body heats up when you are fighting a disease anyway, like inflammation wise. But like, that was pretty much like the last confirmation I felt like I needed before I went to a doctor to get it checked out and ended up being COVID. Um, Now, of course, I mean, you could probably reach that conclusion without having to watch. Like, you probably been perfectly fine. Like, just saying, okay, well, I can't really breathe. I'm hot as shit. I'm like dazed and confused, which, I'm just listing out COVID symptoms at this point, but things I actually experienced. Um, all this stuff, like muscle aches, all that. Like, probably could just guess, around the time period that happened. Like, this is COVID, right? Like, but there are positive benefits to it. I feel like I've at periods of my time of my life where I felt more emboldened to live like kind of my pre-anxiety life, where like I got exercise consistently. I was wanting to go to places, gym, rec center, or whatever, to get that. Um, Having those stats, I think, can really embolden you to want to do more. Like some people, like I mean, you've seen like the Karens, the old moms that just like I gotta get my steps a day. I gotta get my steps a day, and I go do a walk. They probably would not have done otherwise. Like pre Apple Watch, they would not have went and said, "I'm going to do a walk. I'm going to do a 30-minute brisk walk," as the Apple Watch will tell you. Some people would chase exercise minutes because of that. Some people stand more, which that seems like the kind of the least necessary to three, I think, to some people, but like just your joints, like your joints are going to like really appreciate that you're moving, not sitting. Even a lot of us have stationary jobs, not sitting for, that 10 or 12 hours that you may have your watch set for. I had it set for 12 for the longest, which is what it comes preset with, but I lowered it to 10 because, maybe it's an excuse, I guess, but like, I just felt like I was getting 12 hours. It's just that like when I get back from sometimes 9 to 10 hour job, like I don't feel like wearing the watch, so I kind of get cheaped out on a few hours. And sometimes I don't, But the point being, like, I think there's pros and cons to it, but there's a lot of cons to it. Like literally, like I said, low resting heart rate. Yeah, but like it's one of those things where like you wouldn't really notice that. I'd never noticed it before I had the Apple Watch, and definitely not before I had the fucking health anxiety. And I wouldn't say it was a problem up until like I started learning like it's not always a positive to have a lower resting heart rate. For the majority of people, like it is. Like the majority of people do enough that if they do have a resting heart rate, like a low resting heart rate, there's a reason why. It's not a lot of people that like. I'm not gonna like. There's a lot of people with tachycardia, which is like having a low resting heart rate without like there being a like a medical reason why that's occurring, right? Um, so yeah, I don't know. There's plenty of people with tachycardia, but I don't think I have it. I mean, I've literally done, like I said in the first part, like I've done a pretty extended like um heart monitor wearing session where like I would imagine like if that was something that was problematic in nature, it would have got picked up. I mean, they picked up when it was very high doing exercise. I imagine it would have picked up if it was like. And I think they did. It's been a while, but I think they did ask me like if I was particularly active, and maybe they could tell based on like how much work I was putting in. Like I was. Just to let you know, like when you are doing that type of test, like you do have the scans, kind of like the almost ECG like monitors on yourself, but you also have like a watch that you wear. And the watch is meant like to indicate like moments of like I think moments of both high and low moments. I know high I think is when you're supposed to have detected like you're about to go to exercise something like that, and you're supposed to like keep a journal contextualize like what you're doing. Um, so I know it was high. I remember if you also had it for low, but I assumed like they probably would be able to like dictate or pretty easily tell like based on what time you had those happen where it was happening. Um, so yeah, the Apple Watch, the heart rate part of it, not ideal. As I've mentioned many times, the checking when you're doing or filming certain things, not good because it basically perks up your fight or flight response. And maybe it doesn't do this for everybody. People have, by the way, people have different tolerances to anxiety. Like some people do not get anxious the same way. Like they just like, they could do the same activity as a person that is very anxious. Like let's just say somebody was driving in very extended traffic, but at a very high speed, like Atlanta traffic, basically. Atlanta traffic can be basically bumper to bumper, like around 80 miles an hour. And I promise I'm not pulling my ass. Like it can be faster than that, but like I've seen it where it's like that before. So when I say that, like some people that have a big part of it is like trauma experiences, things you've heard, blah, blah, blah. But let's say you have two people that are of a similar background, maybe not somebody who's experienced car accidents. Two people like that. You can have one person who, just based on their pure like instinct, is not as anxious in that situation as another person. And I mean, for the most part, like I would say for like 99% of like anxiety is based on like lived experiences. Like I don't think the whole like there's just a sense of resistance against anxiety. Like I'm trying to say that, but like I don't think that's like the biggest factor that will go into somebody not being anxious in that situation. I think lived experiences are a huge part of it because lived experiences shape you as a personality. Really, more or less. I'm trying to hear how these cards sound like on this Fury music. Let's see. Unanimous decision? That's crazy. It's still, I mean, Usyk did fuck him up the last two rounds, man. I'd say Fury had like the first like four of the. Anyway, this is unrelated. But it was a thing where I was just sitting here like. I think most people out the womb have 99% the same personality. Genetics come into it. Obviously, like, I don't think Passion X, I really don't know what's coming to it. Because I don't think black people, white people, Hispanic people, I don't think anybody's like more preconditioned to be bolder. And when I say preconditioned, I mean out the womb. Bolder, louder, funnier, softer, more like I don't think anything out the womb forms you in that way. I think it's literally just like internal, external, micro, macro factors that kind of develop you. So yeah, I think learned experiences are probably at 90-95% of like what forms anxiety. I really do. To that effect, Apple Watches, man. I think you gotta know yourself before you get onto it. I think the worst thing I could have done was get onto the watch when I was already like down bad. Like I would have never got a watch if I didn't really like. I think I might have considered an Apple Watch like just as like a burgeoning Apple fan. Like I had the iPhone, I had the iPod. Like I've had some things where like I probably would have maybe even without anxiety wanted to get one initially or eventually, but I would definitely recommend to somebody to get it before they get to that point. Because if you do it after, man, it's like if you have somebody that's like been abused, like really harmed in a relationship, and then they get a gun, like they're gonna be way more preconditioned to let that gun go off when they feel like they have the signs of potential abuse or torment, versus somebody who gets it before, gathers like healthy practices and uses it in a recommended way to learn how to use a gun, and then they fall into that learned behavior versus the post-abuse learned behavior. And not to say that somebody who's been abused that gets a gun like is going to use like a fucking ass or anything like that. I'm not even like necessarily pro-gun, honestly. Like I have one, but that's not something I would ever like want to use, against another human being or really another being at all, if I can help it. But learned behavior shape like a huge part of like what you do the next time around, right? So that's just me. I got an Apple Watch after I had anxiety. A lot of people, around the time I got it, which was late 2019, basically December 2019, a lot of people end up getting a watch soon after because they wanted to track, things like blood oxygen. Blood oxygen was a huge, like probably even bigger than heart rate at that period of time, because it really does have a pretty, like I got a Series 7, so when it's like about 3 years old at this point, or three models behind, I guess. And it's really freaking accurate at tracking blood oxygen. Like, the only thing about it is, like, sometimes it doesn't pick it up in like the most like ideal spots. Like sometimes she'll, for me, like, I don't know if it's because of the resting heart rate or what, but like I have colder fingers and extremities, like toes, than probably most people do. So like it doesn't always have necessary blood for a pulse oximeter to read my fingers, which can be anxiety inducing, honestly. And sometimes my watch will catch it, even though the fingers don't. But your watch is tracking your wrist, where if you like had like an entire, I think my hand, like my palm, gets a necessary blood amount, but my fingers, I don't think do. So tracking the wrist typically always works for me. But there's been sometimes where it doesn't, and that's more to do with like watch intricacies and stuff like that. But even my anxiety can happen to a point where, like, for me, like if I do a reading and it doesn't work, like it's not really a blood oxygen reading, but like a heart rate reading, and it doesn't work, or it tells me like high heart rate, which really you can't really do. Like if you're like exercising and you try to do like a reading, excuse me, even with like real ECG technology, probably would not be ideal, because really when you get to a high level, like it's not a great reading. You're more reliable to have variations in your heart rate when you're getting higher at that point. Like you can have palpitations. I did an edible, and the watch was both a bad and a good idea. The watch was telling me like your shit's starting to beat really fast, which I already kind of figured out from like sitting and having my fucking heart beat on my chest. Like I could tell. And I was glad that like the ECG was telling me like your shit is still like in sinus, like it's not like heart palpitation mode, but like because of like the anxiety of that, like both seeing my heart rate say like 220 from sitting doing nothing at all, seeing that, and it kind of reaffirmed like the anxiety where somebody tried to take the watch off of me, because I was like, yeah, you shouldn't really be looking at that, because it's gonna like reinforce it. Which they were right, but I was in a completely different city where I didn't know where a hospital was at, how close the hospital was by, and everybody else is inebriated around me, so like, I didn't really trust the people in my corner in that situation. Like it'd be one thing if like you had like a loved one that was like somebody you knew, like, hey, she knows how I feel in these situations, like she knows what to read, she knows how to calm me down. But for somebody that's like high as fuck to tell you when you're high as fuck, like, hey, calm down, like that's historically, I don't think it's a great situation to be in. So yeah, I don't know. It can definitely be a pro and a con situation, but I think for the sake of health anxiety, there's probably a lot more cons. Like, and I say all this to say, like, if it's health anxiety with no other like relevant like problems you have, like you don't have you don't have bradycardia or tachycardia, which is like the high heart rate. You don't have the heart palpitations, when I forgot the name of it, but you don't have heart palpitations. You don't suffer from like anemia, where you kind of do need to track your oxygen. Or I guess you probably like to track your oxygen. I don't like any of that stuff that it can read. If you don't suffer from any of that stuff, like it's probably more cons than pros. Like if you're a perfectly healthy 25-year-old, where I probably am closer to perfectly healthy than I am like not. All my tests I'm perfectly healthy anyway. It's not like many benefits to check your heart rate or check your this or to check your that. It can help you though with sleep detection, temperature detection, which those statistics, when combined with some other applications such as like sleep tracking apps, can definitely help you like find a more optimal way of sleeping. And a lot of people in this country definitely suffer from sleeping disorders. So there is pros to that, definitely. Let me go ahead and close this out, man. That's it for me. I have nothing else to say. This is like 50 minutes all in all. I don't know what I'm gonna go about shaping this up, but I don't do as many videos as I used to do. So it's like I feel like doing a video that has real substance and weight to me is what
matters. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want me to do more stuff, like just anecdotally speaking about, I guess, my experience with this disorder or anxiety in general, I mean, if I've covered every single base, but if you want me to talk more, I can talk my ass off, as you can tell. So just let me know.